to help offset the costs that we have had as an agency to pay for the third-party consultants for the Division of Public Utilities and Office of Consumer Services. So if you take a look at the final page of the Treasury report and those couple of summary tables, you'll see some updates in terms of what we are expecting to come in the form of grants and donations and what we've received so far. I think that's kind of the main thing to say on that front. And so we can take any questions on the Treasurer's report if anybody has one.
Thank you very much, Emily, and I appreciate it. And we can now move on to the other oh, did you just do the approval of minutes, right? Yeah, right. Sorry. I'm item 2.3, reports to the committee. We'll turn to Chris for the communication report. Thank you.
What do you prefer? Should I go to the dais? What do you usually do, Emily?
I feel like when I'm saying random things, I'm up here.
Yeah.
When I'm presenting, I go to the dais. I don't know. It
I like
depends on
that.
who you want to make eye contact with.
Hold on one moment, please.
Okay.
I originally decided to come down to this meeting because I thought I would go to LPC up at the Capitol, and then I looked at the LPC agenda and the map of the Salt Lake Valley, and I didn't think I could really make it here in time. So I'm impressed, and lesson learned for next time. Chair Dugan was, of course, prominent at the Legislative Policy Committee meeting for the League this afternoon. So on the Communications Committee, in the communications realm here with Utah Renewable Communities, we are like the rest of us in a hurry up and wait or holding pattern sort of posture. We all are well aware of how much gravity the Public Service Commission's decision and the technicalities of it has on what we're up to, and on the communication side, what program we're communicating, the benefits, and all of that. But just a couple of updates. We are moving forward the website update. I don't know if we've brought any of these screenshots of the new user interface that you'll find on utahrenewablecommunities.org in board presentations, but we do have a few in the slide deck here, obviously more polished and more interactive than the current website. We have been collaborating via very large shared Google document amongst the committee and consultants from Penn and Powers on the content of the new website. Some of it's getting rolled over from the old or current website, but much of it is new. We decided to hand that content off to Penn and Powers just recently so they can actually start building out this template depicted in the graphics into the new website. So that's exciting, and it does give us a sense of when the new website will be ready to go live, and we hope that's within the month, maybe by the end of February. As we discussed before, the main goals with this new website are to give us a more powerful, more modern, and more functional backend so that we can operate it as municipal staff, and then to shift a lot of the content from, it was previously a little bit more of an agency-focused website where those of us who participate in program development and the board would go for resources. It's intended now to be more for the general public and for customers who will be weighing this decision to remain opted into the program or opt out. Our channels are active still. They've been pretty focused on the Public Service Commission hearings from December. And now we're pivoting to the outcomes of the Public Service Commission hearing and what's going to happen next. We published a newsletter January 14th. Thank you, Monica. Year in Review 2025 is in the newsletter. We've got a lot of content about the solicitation process. We've got an update on the Public Service Commission process and our outlook on when we might get a decision out of the commission, and then just a run through of the next steps in the PSC process. So you can find that in your email inbox or on the website January 14th. With the hearing and with, I think it's safe to say, some of our increased communication, content, material about the Public Service Commission process, we have been experiencing an uptick of input from community members via the website, via social channels. And so we just want to take a minute and run through some of the frequently asked questions that we are receiving. One of those questions, this comes from members of the general public. It also comes from folks associated with some of our participating communities, such as Cotton Heights, I believe. What is the difference between Utah Renewable Communities and the program we are developing and some of these other options for Rocky Mountain Power customers to get to use renewable energy or clean energy? The Blue Sky program is a common alternative. The difference between Utah Renewable Communities and the Blue Sky program is, of course, that the Blue Sky program primarily uses electricity from existing resources, whereas Utah Renewable Communities will develop new resources and add those to the grid. Subscribers Solar is another program that we have participants in Subscriber Solar in our communities. That is a capped resource. It's a resource that's already been built again, so it's not new resources. Utah Renewable Communities can scale up over time to meet demand, whereas Subscriber Solar is capped. Of course, individual rooftop solar, upfront investment of probably tens of thousands of dollars for a homeowner, and it may not be feasible or affordable to everybody who wants to participate in that. So we think Utah Renewable Communities is more accessible and will have a greater impact than any of these programs. Estimated costs of my business. We are hearing from business owners up in Alta ski areas strongly considering participating. They're already Blue Sky customers, so they want to understand what this might add to their utility bills. Of course, we don't know that because we don't know what program exactly the Public Service Commission will approve. Electricity costs under the tariff schedule set by the Public Service Commission are very complicated. So we do have projections. We can provide people projections. If people have detailed questions, they can turn to Glade or Emily or any of the other experts involved in our program development. Can we share information about the clean energy projects we are considering? And of course we can't for the time being. We've identified a short list of bids. Glade will share a recap and update on that process just after I'm done here. And we look forward to being able to share news on resource solicitation and procurement as soon as we can. This is an old slide. The point is that you all are our greatest messengers. So our strategy for public engagement, partner engagement, is for you all to take a leading role in communicating about the program. Board members, elected officials from participating communities, city staff are the best spokespeople for the agency. So perhaps your constituents are more likely to get the news about the program in the mass media, but they're going to turn to you all and all of us for input about what decisions they face. So again, just to recap, we hope to have a new website live probably by March. We have some other work streams going on with Penna Powers. We have an updated social media toolkit that's still in progress. We're going to continue working on, keep the newsletter and social channels active. We've got a committee meeting coming up on the Friday, the 13th. It's auspicious at 10 a.m. Something we'll talk about with the committee is whether we ought to have another meeting on the calendar, another monthly meeting with the likelihood that we need to take rapid action when the Public Service Commission announces a decision. We want to have those meetings on the calendar so we can get together. And just a reminder, please do consider yourself spokespeople for the organization. You all can be advocates. Those of us who participate in program development, we describe the program and push it forward, but board members can advocate for the program. And please do keep your councils up to date on the status of the Public Service Commission process and be prepared for that big decision. Any questions?
Thank you, Christopher. Any Questions for Chris? I just want to add a couple points on Chris's slides. First of all, thank you very much for the work of the website and the frequently asked questions. The FAQs are very good. All members go to the FAQ. There's some great information for you to glean also to pass on to your residents and your other council members and your boards and your mayors. And second is, Chris mentioned the solar subscriber has a cap at 20 megawatts. Our resources will be new and we're upwards of 300 megawatts for the grid. And our 19 communities combined are approximately 25% of Rocky Mountain Power's energy usage. So this 300 megawatts really has a big impact on Utah Power. So it's not 20 to 25, it's 20 cap for solar subscribers, very limited on blue skies, different programs compared to the URCR program at 300, and it's new grid power.
I appreciate that clarification. When I was looking at these slides earlier today, it occurred to me, I think we could summarize the difference between Utah Renewable Communities and any of those options, or that Utah Renewable Communities is greater in scale, greater impact, and likely cheaper than all three of those.
Perfect summary. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
all right. Now we'll turn the time over to, if there's no other questions for Chris, turn time over to Monica and the Low Income Plan Committee.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Monica. I know we have some new people on the call today. So I work with Salt Lake City. I've been supporting URC for about 4.5 years on the Low Income Plan Committee and supporting some communications as well. So I'll be giving the Low Income Plan Committee update today, where we don't have like a formal facilitator right now, but Emily, Quinton, and myself have been coordinating the group for the past several months. Alrighty, membership here has not changed. Seems my clickers. Thank you. All right, key activities from the past month. So we held our, the Low Income Plan Committee meets once a month on the second Monday of the month. So we met on January the 12th. We spent some time reviewing the email to go out to organizations listed across all of our community's low-income plans. That was drafted back in October, then we just kind of put it on hold to send it out. So we just looked at that, made sure it was all up to date and ready to go. We also discussed what comes next for the committee and all of the communities in implementing all the outreach that we've committed to on our plans, and kind of started to build a timeline for when that should all be happening as we approach these upcoming milestones for the program. We also spent some time brainstorming some additional outreach methods, which I'll get into on a later slide. And we also talked about the Municipal Investment Fund. That is a grant that Salt Lake City and Sustain Energy Finance received, and most of the money is going towards financial planning, legal and technical consulting costs, but there's a small line item, about $18,000, that's being spent on communications, and especially general communications, but we're also working on some collateral that's specific to low-income outreach. So we talked a little bit about what that could look like, and since then we've been working with our communications consultant, Penna Powers, to create some collateral, which I'll share with you once it's ready. And finally, our next committee meeting is a week from today, February 9th. Alrighty, so as I mentioned on the last slide, we sent out an email to all of the organizations listed on all of our low-income plans, or at least those that subscribed to receive this communication. So I have a link there for you all to view the email, so hopefully that works in your board packet. But just to give an overview of the content, we just gave a brief overview of where we're at in the process and how we've gotten to this point. We explained why we're reaching out to these organizations, why it's so important that we have really thorough and clear communications to all of our customers, but especially those low and fixed income community members. Just being that this is an automatic opt-in program and it will likely cost a little bit extra to be opted in. So just gave an overview of that, and then we also explained why we're reaching out to them, what we've committed to in our low-income plans, and finally, what is coming next. So just letting the organizations know that as we pass these program approval ordinance adoption time milestones, we'll reach out to them and just keep them in the loop. And then after that, when we're preparing for the program launch, hopefully in a bit here, we'll start asking for their help on spreading the word on URC. Alrighty, so I've mentioned this in the past couple months, but we have the Low Income Plan Committee is putting together a document that will be a resource for you all. It will have elective strategies that communities have listed in their low income plans, as well as some other methods of outreach that you all can choose to do, and this would be in addition to what you already have committed to in your low income plan. So just if you're looking for some extra outreach to do to your organizations, this is a place where you can find some ideas and recommendations of what you might choose to do. So that is coming soon. I think it will be a living document that we can keep adding to as we have more ideas and more we learn more about what's working for community members and how people want to be contacted by us. But I just included a couple bullets here of some ideas that I grabbed directly from communities' low-income plans, that elective strategies section, and then some that came out of a conversation that we had at our low-income plan committee meeting last month. So I won't go through all of these, but I just wanted to give sort of a sneak peek of what's to come on that document. Thank you. Okay, next steps for the committee. Like I mentioned, after the PSC ruling, we'll be communicating with the organizations on our plans once again, just to update them on the process and our timeline, and especially if we don't expect there to be any changes to what we have listed in our plans, but if there is any changes with the PSC ruling, we'll of course be letting them know of that. Also, like I mentioned, we'll be sharing that elective strategies resource for you all coming soon, and we'll keep preparing, planning support for our communities that will adopt the ordinance later in 2026 to help you all implement what we've all committed to in those plans. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you, Monica. Any questions for Monica? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll now turn the time over to Glade with the Program Design Committee updates.
Let's see here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Glade Sowards, for the folks who may be newer on the meeting call today, I'm with Salt Lake City staff as well, and I'm the coordinator for the Program Design Committee. And if you see me being a little creaky today, I had a good wipeout skiing this weekend, so I'm kind of battling that, so bear with me. No new changes to our membership. You can see the communities listed there. As for our activities, the Program Design Committee regularly, in a typical month, meets twice. We met on the 12th and the 26th of January, and during one of those meetings, the January 12th meeting, we selected our final shortlist to bring to you today, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. On the program application, side of the equation, we've had no updates. I reflexively click on a link on my browser, checked it at 2 o'clock, so no updates from the PSC as of about a minute ago. We'll keep you posted, but we're excited and hoping for some news there. As for the solicitation, our RFP, Energy Strategies was able to utilize the system benefit modeling developed by PacifiCorp to calculate Phase 3 scores and make recommendations to the Program Design Committee. And as I mentioned, the committee selected a final shortlist on the 12th. And again, we'll talk about that in a moment. We also have been working now for what seems like months on an optional transmission study. There was some back and forth, and you may recall during the January meeting, we had a resolution to authorize Chair Dugan to sign on behalf an agreement to sort of initiate this study on behalf of the agency. We kind of went back and forth with attorneys on both sides and realized that really this agreement is more appropriate for just the bidders and the company to be involved with. So we've amended that to be a two-party agreement, so we don't need that signature, and we will be initiating, having those companies, the bidders, initiate the transmission study via this two-party agreement shortly. And we've shared that agreement with the bidders for review in anticipation of today's vote. We've also shared an updated form PPA language that was based on a recent Oregon RFP that the company's been working on. We had original pro forma language in our RFP, and that language just gets updated from time to time, things like cybersecurity agreements and all kinds of different clauses. And so the language has sort of shifted over time. So as a courtesy to potentially selected bidders, we wanted to give them a sense of what the company is looking for in their most recent a similar language. So that has also been shared. For today's presentation, I just wanted to spend a little time, especially because we have a few new folks, reminding everyone of how we got to where we are on the RFP on our solicitation in anticipation of a vote later today. And so I start this off on December 8th, but really this goes back to about November 2024. The first part of PacifiCorp's program application on our behalf was an RFP to go for approval from the Public Service Commission. That was submitted, and there was a bunch of work done. The PSC ultimately approved that RFP in May of last year, and almost immediately, the agency didn't waste any time. We got that RFP out and made public, and we received 14 qualifying bids in July when that RFP closed. That put the Program Design Committee into motion and our consultants, Energy Strategies, and we were able to select what was known as our initial shortlist. I believe that was in September. Forwarded that list to the company, who did some system benefit modeling to help us with the program valuation. We got those results on December 8th, as you see on the table here, and that kind of set us in motion to get to where we are today. So we've had some back and forth on that system benefit analysis. We had our consultants help us digest the information we received in that analysis and use both that information and information from our Phase 1 and Phase 2 process to arrive at a score for Phase 3. That information was given to the Program Design Committee, which selected a final shortlist for your consideration on January 12th. We've notified all the bidders of that. Both the successful and unsuccessful candidates were notified shortly after January 12th. And that brings us to today. Pretty exciting day. This is today, as the list as outlined in the RFP narrative, the board may vote to select one or more projects for contract negotiation. So we'll have a resolution to that end later today. I wanted to give you also just a look out into the future, and these next dates are really coming from the company's estimates in their testimony to the PSC for what they think might happen next. They might be a little optimistic since we haven't had a program approval yet. But they anticipated that we would execute agreements by March 9th, and then that they would file with the PSC for approval on May 8th, with a targeted hearing date 75 days later on July 22nd. And then we'd need at least, I think, a month to have the PSC approval. So I've put that kind of highlighted there on August 22nd. That's all happening kind of in parallel with our program application process, and I'll show that in a moment. But wanted to give you a sense of how we got to where we are today. And I also want to talk about just what the RFP narrative did and did not say about selecting projects. And it's a little confusing because the final shortlist discussion is further down in the document on page 22. But it basically says that the board may select by a vote one or more projects. And importantly, it says the company will not enter into any agreement without agency approval. So we're acting on that today. On page 17, earlier in the document, it kind of zooms out to the big picture. So that final short list is part of the process. But once that's selected, then the company would initiate negotiations with projects from the final short list that are selected by a vote, that vote being today. And again, selection of a bid to the final short list does not constitute a winning bid. And you can see the language, only execution of a definitive agreement between company and the bidder on terms acceptable to the agency and company will constitute a winning bid proposal, and neither the agency nor company has a legal obligation to enter into any agreement of any kind with any bidder. So I just wanted to put that out there so folks understand, what has been broadcast throughout the process and as part of the RFP. So that brings us to today's vote. So we will have a vote on a resolution later. I just wanted to highlight that all the projects or, the bidders, throughout this process, we've used a kind of a code name established through our consultants, Energy Strategies, to anonymize the projects, and we'll continue to use our code names from that anonymized process. We will later in the meeting today enter into a closed session for two components. We will talk during that session. We'll first have Energy Strategies present the Phase 3 scoring results that resulted in our final shortlist, just to give you a sense of how we arrived at the Phase 3 scoring and what the Program Design Committee had to work with. We also wanted to give you an opportunity to hear from Phil Russell from our legal counsel on the contract negotiation process that's coming up, and the issue, the remaining uncertainties associated with projects and kind of related considerations. So that will give you an opportunity to ask questions you might have about the process. Then we'll eventually come back into an open session during which we'll have a vote on a resolution that I'll tell you about, that I'll describe to you later at that point. And I think that is mostly everything. I wanted to just kind of zoom back out and show you both kind of in parallel here. Both the RFP process and the program application process are kind of happening in parallel. Again, we talked about, we had our hearings last month on the 16th and 17th, and PacifiCorp on that kind of middle of the top row in blue there had estimated an approval on the 30th, so we're about 4 days after that. So since this sort of is a series of windows that happened starting with that approval date, we're starting to just a little bit push back on that, delay that timeline, I guess. So you can imagine everything after that shifted at least 4 days out, if not more. But how it would work, there would be an approval that starts off the 90-day clock we've talked about before for program ordinance adoption. After that window closes, Rocky Mountain has proposed a 5-month preparation period where they get their billing system and everything updated and ready to go for the notification process. Then that starts what's called the implementation date. Again, based on the old timeline there, that would be the end of September. That's the beginning of a 60-day notification period when the first notification goes out to customers. After 60 days, that window closes and we have the commencement date. The commencement date is when bills start actually having a rate impact. However, as proposed in the company's filing, there would be 3 billing cycles or 100 days after that commencement date during which no termination fee would be charged to customers if they want to opt out. So effectively, they can opt out during that 60-day window before the commencement date, and then for another at least 3 billing cycles thereafter. All of this is subject to PSC approval. They bat last, and they could change those parameters, but I wanted to give you a sense of how it was laid out in the program application. And then, while that's all happening, that timeline I showed you in the table before is also unfolding on the RFP there in green. And they're somewhat independent, but obviously they kind of weave back together in terms of having an actual resource, and the PPA negotiation process would ultimately inform the program rate that customers would be charged. So I think I will stop there and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Glade. Any questions for Glade? All right, thank you very much for that presentation.
Sorry, I have a question. My hand was raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm
Sorry.
filing in. So question about the RFP process. It's typical in RFPs similar to this that median bid characteristics in terms of price are shared with the public. Is that, does the URC intend to share median or generalized project or RFP metrics with the public?
That is a great question, and I might have to phone a friend here, but I think generally speaking, my understanding is that when we had that May filing with the PSC is when a lot of this information would become public. Ultimately, the PSC has to approve this, and we have NDAs in place with the bidders to protect confidential business information associated with that. But I'm going to turn and see if I missed anything. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up from our attorney. So.
The ordinance adoption that you were showing on the screen a moment ago, 90 days anticipated, is that the time period where we anticipate the accumulation of the program reserves to take place, or does that take place over a longer period of time?
Did you say the accumulation? Okay. Yeah, we don't have a program. The program doesn't start collecting revenue until the commencement date, which on that timeline I showed earlier was around the end of November. And so the 90 days is simply starts with the program approval by the PSC, and it's the window during which the communities need to adopt a program ordinance, a draft of which was included in our original in Rocky Mountain Power's original program application. That adopting that ordinance by their councils and commissions then opt in their residents and businesses to participate in the program. But as I mentioned earlier, they can then opt out during the 60-day noticing window or the post-commencement date, what is currently proposed as a 100-day or a 3 billing cycle period. If to try to answer your question, there would not be an accumulation of, program rate billing until after that commencement date started. And at that time, I believe the first things that get funded then are the reserve. In terms of interest, earlier in the process, and I will admit it was before I was here, but there was some surveying that had been done in a few of the communities that showed pretty broad support. We've also, during our public witness and the PSC's, during the Public Service Commission's public witness hearing and their public comment period, we've seen a lot of support shown for the program. And the second part of your question, I think, was, was it the likelihood of the reserve being filled or the amount of time? It's a good question. We're obviously we're hopeful sooner rather than later. I will say that the PPAs, the reserves had to reach a certain level for the PPA to be effective. And Emily, you can jump in if I'm misspeaking here, but there's sort of a mechanism in place to make sure that happens before the resource can be acquired. Yeah, and I neglected there's actually one more slide if you could move that off. I just wanted to touch on next steps. I mean, it's sort of obvious, but we're all waiting with bated breath for the PSC decision or decisions to start that 90-day window I mentioned. In the meantime, I think as Chris maybe said, we want to continue to update our councils and commissions about the process and get ready for that program ordinance adoption. As Chris said, we're also working on communications tools, a new website, and we're looking ahead to certain items that need to be resolved. And I'm not prepared to get into the details today, but for example, there's a startup cost agreement that was included in the application that needs to be dusted off and approved and addressed. On the RFP side of things, today's, as we all know, the vote for the selection of one or more projects to move forward for contract negotiation. We also need to get that transmission study underway, and as part of that, we'll have to get our transmission agreement documents signed between the two parties, the company and the bidders. And then, of course, we're entering into this negotiation phase. And again, I guess I wanted to reiterate here that the final stage of this, the board will want the board to approve any final PPA before it's filed with the PSC. And now I'm ready for more questions.
Thank you, Guy. Any other
Yeah.
questions? Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is a little bit of an off-the-wall question, but as we've been telling our communities that being a part of this program, the individual users, it'll cost $3 or $4 a month on the average bill. Over time, as time goes on, does the cost of these power purchase agreements, the renewable energy that we're purchasing, does it remain stable? And as the cost of all power goes up, will that flip, that $3 to $4 a month flip? Will renewable energy, is it possible that it becomes less expensive than dirty energy? Is that fair?
I'm going to take a stab at this, and again, if anyone on our team wants to correct me on this, please jump in. But I think the idea, and a lot of this comes down to this PSC approval, right? And we have asked the PSC for a rate that targets that $3 to $4 a month for an average residential user. That's sort of the agency's position in our testimony, but there's not a guarantee that the PSC will go there. I will say that the company also, in their filing, first in June and later, I think it was in November, kind of did an estimate by the schedule, like the rate tariff that different types of users pay, and their range that they put in was in that kind of $3 to $4 per month impact. But one of the things that's kind of come up throughout the testimony process is that whether it's with our state agencies, the Division of Public Utilities, Office of Consumer Services, or other parties, there's been a lot of questions about understandably about transparency and wanting to have accountability and a process for updating program rates as you go on. And so I think what we've advocated for is that the PSC gets an initial rate in place that allows us to collect revenue starting on that commencement date we talked about earlier, recognizing that there would be opportunities to adjust the program rate as you go on. As for the PPA agreement itself, I might defer to Phil on that. I don't know if it's appropriate to have Phil step up.
Please, thank you, Phil.
Feel free to correct me on that.
No, that was all good. The $3 to $4 charge that we're talking about is, of course, the goal for residential customers. Where that comes from is not simply the cost of the PPA. So to start, the cost of the PPA will remain, we expect it to remain level throughout the term of the project. The cost that a customer will pay, however, it's a bit of a kind of a combination of what is the cost of that PPA and what is the value that that project brings to the system. So if you think about like all the other resources that are on the system, that PPA will have some value. That project will have some value to the system, and the price that a customer will pay is an attempt to like address that value. At the outset, the customers are likely going to pay more, not more than the 3 to 4, but more than they will through the rest of it, because you've got to raise that resource reserve. So when Rocky Mountain Power filed its application for approval, they had two sort of hypothetical projects where they raised the rate by $3 to $4 at the front end. And we pick one project that goes in 2028, and the other one that goes in 2030, I think, were the two dates. And the price was raised by $3 to $4 for several years to raise the resource reserve, and then the rate that customers would pay dropped because we don't need to raise all those funds. It drops, and there were times during the course of the participation that those rates actually went negative. So the answer to your question is it will move. Right now, it's sort of a guess as to how it's going to move. We know that the mechanics of the math are that we're going to need to raise a fair bit of money at the front end because of the resource reserve, and that it's probably going to drop after that. But all of this is subject to PSC approval, and so and we don't have, very importantly, we don't yet have the PSC weighing in on exactly how the resources that we acquire are going to be valued by the system. That's going to drive a lot of the economics here. So that was a really long way of saying that it will move, and there are times when it may be less expensive to be part of the program than it would be not to be part of the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And for the record, that was Phil Russell, our legal counsel. Thank you, Phil. Any further questions for Glade? Appreciate that very much, Glade.
All right, thanks.
Now we'll move on to item 2.4, which is public comments. Anybody online? And we give everyone 2 minutes to give us a comment. And usually we don't answer the questions at this point, but we can always get back to you on that point. But are there anyone online or in person that would like to make a public comment? All righty, seeing none. We will now be moving and need to move into a closed session. So I will look for a motion to move into closed session for the discussion items under Utah Code 52-4-205. And just for the public and everybody else, we will enter closed session for 30 minutes or so, and then we'll come back out of closed session back into the open session of the meeting.
Mr. Chair, Chris Colley from Alta. I move that we enter a closed session per Utah Code annotated 52-4-205 for the purpose of discussing pending or reasonably imminent litigation.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion from board member Chris Crawley, a second from Mayor Jackson. And this one I have to roll call it. So I'm going to be roll calling now. First, just roll call the people in the online, or excuse me, in person. Mayor Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Crawley?
Aye.
Councilmember Quinn,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Drew, I mean, sorry, not Mr. Drew. Councilmember Brim,
Yes.
Emily? Roger's doing. Any other voting members? Oh, yes. Oh, I'm the last one to vote. Okay, online, we'll go with Luke. Carden, Park City.
Yes.
Millcreek, we got that votes. Crystal Butterfield.
Yes.
Melody McCandless.
Yes.
Uh, Dave Groff.
Yes.
Joe Frazier.
Yes.
Randy Aton.
Yes.
Pamela Gibson.
Yes. Yes.
Hey.
Lost my voice.
I heard a yes. Emily Paskett.
Okay.
Board member Harrison will be voting for.
Okay, she's down the line here. Okay, Kyla.
I'm an alternate, not voting.
Okay, oh, that's right. Sorry. Alexi.
Yes.
We've already got Ogden. Dan James. He's not a board member, sorry. Samantha's not a board member. Roger Armstrong.
Yes.
And Holly Smith.
Alternate not voting.
Right. And Councilmember Harrison.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes unanimously. So we're entering closed session. So if you're not a board member or part of that core team, then we would ask you to exit until we're back open to the open session. We're exiting closed session. And we'll start back up here in a second. Yeah, we can take all that.
Yep, so if we can just stop sharing the screen. And if you could just go back to the packet there.
All right, thank you very much. Now that we're on item 2.6, discussion and consideration of resolution 26-02, resolution of the board selecting projects for contract negotiation. And that resolution, I'll kind of just turn the time over just to Glade to kind of walk us through quickly on the resolution itself.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The resolution itself is pretty short and sweet. It simply kind of walks through, the process that the agency went through to select an initial shortlist, a final shortlist, some of the language from the narrative that I highlighted in my previous presentation during the Program Design Committee update, and simply resolves after the recitals that the agency hereby selects the following final shortlist project bids as identified by their anonymized project names to enter into contract negotiations with PacifiCorp, and those names are PV Plus Best 2, PV Plus Best 3, PV Plus Best 4, and PV Plus Best 7. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Glade. Any questions for Glade? All right, I will look for a motion to approve of the resolution.
So moved.
Motion from Mayor Brems,
Second.
second from Board Member Crawley. Any questions? Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. And this is up to the board comments period, 2.7, the next one. Any comments from Emily?
I'll be really quick. I just wanted to call out that I have sent a draft of the program ordinance with community names filled in and some other items for each community to fill in as well. If you have any questions about that email that you got from me, please reach out. This is just to get the ordinance in as close to ready shape as possible for us to then fill in the final details upon Public Service Commission approval. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? I had just one last comment. Before I joined this meeting, I was at the LPC at the Capitol, and we had Brian Steed come and give us a little discussion on the water issues that we have at the Great Salt Lake, and very concerning about what our water level right now. and know there's our friends from Alta are very concerned about it. If you look at the graph, we can't get any lower than we are now. We're as bad as the lowest year probably in 50 years since probably the winter of 1976. A number of you don't remember that because you weren't here, but there's other of us that do remember that year, and it was terrible. I wasn't here in Utah, but I was in California. And we're at that same level. And so we have a lot of work to be done on the water side of the house. I say that because we're talking about the energy, which is also has to deal with water, but we're also talking about the air quality, which also has to do with the lake. So it all combines here, and I appreciate all of everybody's work on this end of the problem. We will need your work on the other end, on the water side of the house too. Just throwing that out there. No real just a comment on that, but both areas are very important to all of us, and I appreciate all the work and the diligence on moving these programs forward. Thank you very much. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Oh, I need a second.
Don't jump on it.
Second.
I have a motion for Mayor Jackson, a second from Board Member Colley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.